What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the very first Terps Hockey Podcast episode. I am Matt Fusillo. It is a pleasure to be your host on the Maryland Hockey Network. I figured this is a perfect time to try this out. We've never done this before, but the Terps are supposed to play 2 games at Florida Gulf Coast today and tomorrow. I'm recording on Friday, October 21st, so it was going to be today and tomorrow, Saturday, October 22nd, but that got canceled. So I figured with no games going up on the Maryland Hockey Network this weekend, we might as well try out a little bit of a podcast episode to get some content to you all in some fashion. And the Terps are 7-0 in the season. They're undefeated. So why not recap the first 7 games and talk about how things are going, specifically how things are going so well for them. I mean, everything is clicking so far with their 7 victories. We're over a month into the season. And I'm also joined later on in the episode by the captain of the team, Liam Eden. I just finished recording that, actually, so we'll get to that in a few moments. But he had a lot of great things to say about the team. And we talked about really just overall how the team is feeling so far. What he thinks is going well for them from the captain and players' perspective. And, him being a leader on this team. Obviously, the offense, defense, goaltending, we run through all of those, as well as getting into some funny stuff toward the end. So it was great having him on. We'll get to that in a few moments. But before we get into things, follow the Terps on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Terps Hockey, and on Facebook, they are University of Maryland Ice Hockey. We post a lot of things on there. You're not going to want to miss it, especially with our media day just wrapped up earlier this week, just a couple days ago. We're going to have a lot of content to post. And as well as, I love interacting with you all. My Twitter, I'll post that in the description. I've been interacting with some of you all, talking about things that I see at the rink and some ideas that we could have for content, anything related to that. So I love talking with you all. But before we get into anything else, let's go through the Mid-Atlantic Collegiate Hockey standings, because the Terps are 7-0. Right now they're in first place, and obviously this is a 5-team conference right now. Last year there were more teams, but a few of them dropped out and moved into other divisions such as the ACC Hockey League. But Maryland is 7-0. They're sitting atop. Rider is 3-2. Now Rider missed 3 games because of COVID, and that actually affected the Maryland team. Instead of playing their game against Rider so far this season, they went up against Stevenson, and Maryland played Stevenson 3 games already. They were only supposed to play once. The Terps were scheduled to take on NJIT at home earlier in the year, and that one got canceled, so they took on Stevenson instead. Maryland was also supposed to take on Rider, but Rider had a little bit of issues with COVID, I believe, so they had to have a few of their games postponed, and Rider, one of those games got postponed with Stevenson as well. So instead of Rider playing Maryland and Stevenson, Maryland played at Stevenson. So they played at the Reisterstown Sportsplex twice so far this year, and then the following week they played home in Laurel. But anyway, third place Drexel is sitting at 2-4, and Stevenson 1-5-0-1. So they have 1 regulation win, and then they also have a loss in overtime that came against the Terps. Delaware is sitting at 0-9. Rough go of it so far. Maryland beat them once. Maryland's got their fair share of mock conference games so far this season, but not for the first 3 games. Their first game they played James Madison. We'll go through each of those games. James Madison was at home at the Gardens Ice House. Terps won that one 9-3. That was really... that was an interesting one in my opinion, because obviously it was the first game of the season. That comes as no surprise on Friday, September 16th. But it was also kind of a new look Terps lineup. I mean, they had a lot of new guys. I mean, skipping to the roster sheet now. A lot of new guys in the lineup, such as Max Noonan, Travis Duchesne, Joey Takis, Matthew Kravitsky, Brian Teskey, Andrew Itzkevich, James Body. A lot of new guys in the lineup, and they really got the job done. 9-3 victory. Now, we don't really know too much about James Madison. They are a team that, at least I've never seen the Terps play before, but as well as the fact that their social media coverage they don't really get too much of it. So I haven't really heard much about them going into the season, but 9 goals. I mean, the team looked great coming back into it, especially because 2 seasons ago was the COVID season. There was no season. So going into last season, I believe it was about 50% or even over 50% of the guys on the team had never played on the collegiate level. So that was an interesting jump. So kind of wanted to see how they would go into this season playing against the James Madison Dukes. And that game, I mean, looking at the score sheet, Liam Meaden, obviously picking up from last season, had a great night. Trevor Drake got 5 points, Eden 4 points. Max Newnham, his first game as a Terp, he got 2 goals, 2 assists. Muirhead, 3 points. So you look at the score sheet, the top 6 was raking that game, and they've been raking ever since then. We go into the next weekend, Friday, September 23rd. The Terps are at the Gardens Ice House once again. They won 6-0. That was a game in which Henry Pelletier started in net. He got his first career shutout, first shutout as a Terp. And then the following night against George Washington University, that was also at the Gardens Ice House. The team won 8-5. Eric Bernberg got his first start as a Terp that night, the graduate student coming into this Terps team. And there were a lot of milestones that weekend. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to name them all, but Bernberg got his first win. Pelletier got his first shutout. Liam Meaden got his 100th career point in the ACHA. That was Saturday against George Washington. And then quite a few first career goals. It was Brian Teskey, who scored twice actually against George Washington. James Body scored that night as well. And then the night prior, Andrew Tapoy scoring his first career goal. He was with the team last season, played and got his first career goal against Georgetown. And then he scored 2 more later in the year, so he's up to 3 at the time I'm recording this. Then flash forward to Saturday, October 1st. Maryland played at Stevenson at the Reisterstown Sportsplex. They won 6-2. I believe they scored 3 goals in the first period, 3 goals in the second period. So they went into the third period up 6-0. Stevenson got 2 goals back, but the boys were able to come away with a resounding victory. That was Saturday, October 1st. The only game they played that weekend. And then you go into the next weekend against the University of Delaware, Saturday, October 8th. That was back at the Gardens Ice House. So their 5th game of the season and their 4th home game. A 4-0 victory. And that was another interesting one in my opinion, because last season the Terps' first game was against Delaware. So as we just talked about with the COVID season, that was their first game in 2 years. And Maryland ended up losing that one 7-0, I remember. And they only played 40 minutes because there was a panel of glass that was broken and they couldn't get it fixed for the third period. So Maryland lost 7-0 in 2 periods. It was an interesting one going into just a couple weeks ago when they played Delaware. Didn't really know how that was going to go. Obviously, Delaware was winless going into it. They're currently 0-9, and Maryland ended up coming away with a 4-0 win. So I believe Pelletier got another shutout that game. Then the next night, Maryland was back at the Reisterstown Sportsplex again for a 4-3 overtime win. I think out of the games they played so far, that was the closest and the most entertaining one. It was a 4-3 overtime win. Max Newnham got a hat trick, and Matthew Kravitsky got his first goal as a Terp. But the Terps went into the game. I mean, it was a 3-0 lead for Stevenson, actually. So the Terps went into the first intermission. All 3 goals for Stevenson came in the first period. And Aiden Jones got the start. They pulled him out and put in Eric Bernberg for the second and third period. And, Newnham getting the hat trick, Kravitsky getting that goal. I believe that was a goal with Joey Takis right in front of the net. They were able to get a nice tap in there, and Newnham doing what he does best. Newnham was the one that got the overtime winner. And, I mean, that was the game that really showed, okay, this team has a lot of fight in them, and we're going to see what they can do going into the gauntlet of games moving ahead. We'll get into that later, the next few games. But a 4-3 overtime win at the Reisterstown Sportsplex for the second straight week. Fantastic game from the Terps. That put them up. It was 6 wins and 0 losses. And then lastly, Saturday, October 15th. That was last weekend at the Gardens Ice House. They played Stevenson once again, and they ran away with that one 8-2. So 3 weeks in a row they played Stevenson, and Maryland came away with wins in all 3 games. So today in the standings, Maryland is 7-0. They're yet to lose. This weekend, as we said, Florida Gulf Coast is canceled, and so they're having an off weekend. There's no games or practices or anything. Nice to get the boys to kind of regroup, get some time off, especially with a couple injuries on the team. Get those guys some extra rest, and then they'll be back at it next weekend against George Washington University. That one's away, but not too far though, since they're so close. It's at the St. James, and then home the following day, Saturday, October 29th, at against Westchester. That one's back at the Gardens Ice House. The weekend after that, the ACCHL Showcase. All 3 games at the St. James. Last year was a lot of fun. This year is going to be very fun as well. 3 very tough teams they're going up against: University of Tampa, NC State, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, in that order. So Tampa's going to be on Friday. That one's on a 9 o'clock a.m. start time. You'll see on the website it says 9 a.m. That is not a typo. It's not 9 p.m. It's 9 a.m. on Friday, November 4th. And the next day, 7 p.m., they got kind of the prime time game, Saturday, November 5th against NC State. The following day, they have a Sunday matinee, 2:30 p.m. against UNC. So that's going to be fun. They did really well last year, the Terps in the Showcase. They had a sweep. They won all 3 games, obviously at the St. James as well. So they'll be back there in a couple of weeks, but not before they take on George Washington and Westchester. Just a couple other things before we get into the Liam Eden segment of the podcast. Just a couple news around the team. Last Monday, the 17th of October, the team went to the Capitals game. They had a fundraiser there, so that was nice. Having a little bit of a kind of a team bonding in a way as well. A lot of the players came out, and we were able to have a broomball game on the ice afterwards, which was pretty interesting. I took part in that, and definitely did not go too well for my team. It was red versus black, so whoever was wearing a red jersey, whether that was a Capitals jersey or a Maryland jersey, whatever it was, they were on one team. So you got Liam Eden wearing his Terps jersey, Max Newnham wearing his Capitals jersey. The red team was certainly loaded. My team, it was the black team, so really, not just the black team. It was pretty much anyone not wearing red. So I had a navy blue hoodie on, so they put me in the black team. I obviously did not go, too well going up against those guys for sure. But we did have Tucker Healy on our team, though, who is pretty much good at every sport you could possibly imagine. But I'd say the red team had the puck in the offensive zone for probably 85% of that. But it was a very cool opportunity. We had 15 minutes on the ice. The clock started pretty much as we were walking out of the tunnel, so we quickly ran to the center ice face-off dot, and we got underway. But that was cool, being with the team and getting a little bit of a team bonding opportunity in there. And then on this past Wednesday, the 19th, we had our Terps Hockey Media Day, and we got into that a little bit with Liam. You're going to hear him say a couple things about that, but I thought that was a really cool opportunity for the team. I was kind of in charge of planning out the different shots and groups, and then we had a photographer come, Rob RAYMER. I'll put his stuff in the description as well. He did a fantastic job. He's been coming out to a few of the Terps hockey games at the Gardens Ice House, and he's been shooting the games. He's been unreal. So to have him be able to come help us, we were very thankful for him. So just coordinating with him and the coaches, Terps Hockey Media Day was certainly, in my opinion, I thought it went really well. I thought it was a great success. So that was good. The way it went was, so we got there, the media staff and the coaches, the photographers, all them, we got there around 8:30, a little bit earlier, to kind of set things up, go over the timeline for the night. And then the players were scheduled to come in at 9:30, I believe. Some of them came in a little bit earlier. We gave them designated time slots for them to do their off-ice headshots. So the way it worked was they'd come into the rink with a shirt and tie. They'd come into the rink wearing it already, and then they could just drop down their stuff, take their headshot with the shirt and tie for more of a professional shot, and then they go into the locker room, change into their full uniform, their home uniform, so the black jersey. They'd come back out, do another headshot off ice. So the off ice headshots was shirt and tie, their first one, and then the second one was full home uniform. And then ice time started at 10:30. So right when the ice time started, we pushed the benches onto the ice and got them into height order. I put the goalies, the captains, and the coaches on the bottom row, and then the middle row and the top row, we split it off into height order, so we could kind of get a good visual for that. So we did the team photo right when the ice time started, and then kind of cool doing a half ice practice as the coaches were able to get some work in with the guys on half the ice, and the other half we set up dividers over the center ice line, that red line, and on the other half we had Rob doing his thing where we would kind of direct the players into different groups. So the groups were goalies, and then graduate students, captains and seniors, and then juniors, and then lastly we did sophomores and freshmen, and then them splitting into different groups allowed them to do photos together with each class, with the captains, with the goalies, and then we did individual shots on the ice. So this was an opportunity for them to do face-off poses, celebrations, sellies, as we like to say. Really whatever the guys could think of. We did have a little bit of a time restraint, so we couldn't spend all day on each group, but the guys got a little bit of creativity in there, doing whatever they wanted, so that was cool. So once again, thank you for Rob for coming out and doing that. Very thankful for him and all that he's been doing for the team so far this year. But I figure I might as well get into a little bit of what the team has been doing well so far this year. Obviously 7-0, and then I wanted to talk about that Capitals game and the media day to kind of give you all an update on what the team has been up to off the ice. And I think that'll just about do it for the opening segment. I brought on Liam Eden. That's been a lot of fun. So without further ado, here's the captain, Liam Eden. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by the captain of the University of Maryland ACHA Men's Division II Ice Hockey Club, Liam Eden. Liam, how are you doing?
I am doing super well, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm very glad to have you on. First ever episode, podcast style-ish, whatever you want to call it, on the Maryland Hockey Network. Got a bunch of questions for you. First, I just want to know, how are you doing, and how's the team doing so far? You guys are obviously 7-0. What's the feeling like?
Well, first of all, I just want to say what an honor it is to be the first ever guest on such a podcast. Hopefully I won't let you down today. But no, I'm doing good. The team is doing well. I think we were looking forward to going to Florida this weekend, but obviously that fell through. So we kind of treated this week as more of a rest, recovery, off week. So we're looking to come back stronger and more healthy than ever next week going into our games. So,
and that is one of the things I wanted to ask you. I mean, obviously you guys are probably looking forward to Florida Gulf Coast, but I know you're probably bummed out about not going, but is it good to be able to have a weekend off in the middle of the season?
Yeah, I think so. Like, this week was very important for a lot of guys because we are dealing with a few injuries. So having like most of the week off and only a light practice really helped give guys a chance to take a little break and just focus on their bodies, which is important, especially at this early time of the year as we start to head into some more important games.
And what is it that's really going well for you so far? I mean, 7 wins, you guys haven't lost yet. You're over a month into the season. Can you pinpoint what is going well?
Yeah, I just think from top to bottom, both forwards and D and our goalies, we're solid. We don't really have any weak links, which is makes it very easy because there's a next man up mentality, right? When one line isn't necessarily having the greatest of games, another line is going to step up and take over. And I think we've seen that a handful of times this year. So definitely our depth and I think just our overall how we're approaching games too from a mental standpoint is really helping us.
And last year, you talk about the depth. Last year it was really you and Tucker Healy scoring the vast majority of the goals. But this year, I mean, you got guys from, all four lines on offense scoring goals. Is it more of a weight taken off of your shoulders, knowing that, there are a lot of guys in the team this year that'll put the puck in the back of the net?
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to be able to celebrate goals sitting on the bench this year for a change. But no, I'm so happy for a lot of our guys who have been starting to find success this year when it was a little frustrating for them last year. And I kept telling all of them last year, it's going to come, just keep doing your thing. And we're starting to see results from, like, Chase Wilson had a few goals the other game. It was fantastic to see. Andrew DePoy has been all over the place, which has been amazing. Super stoked about that. And the rest of our guys were just so many to name, but we're all doing well.
Chase and Andrew, those are the two guys that I was actually going to bring up. I mean, Chase got the first two goals of the game, your last game, I believe, and then DePoy, he's got 3 goals so far. So, I mean, those guys were both there last year. So, does that speak to how far you've come from last year into this year?
Yeah, we're really focused on lifting each other up, which is good. We're taking the mindset that we're taking practices in every game. We're trying to get better, right? Our starting point from last year to where we are this year, you can definitely see a lot of improvement in a lot of guys, which is fantastic.
How do you think the guys are handling that fourth line kind of rotation that they got going? Because you got a lot of guys that you want to get playing time. Chase, Andrew, Kravitsky's playing really well. You got the Steinberg brothers. So how do you think the team handles kind of rotating through that and finding time for everyone to play?
So if anything, I think it's a positive because it makes our practices so competitive. When the lineup isn't set, like preset each week, like people are fighting for their spots in the lineup, and it just makes everyone better, I think.
We're talking a lot about the offense, but you got to go into the defense too. You got some big new guys on defense with Teske, Itzkevich, Body, and now Chen playing D2. So what's that been like, having the new guys on defense as well?
Oh, I love our defensemen. I think they have been able to mix in very well with our returners. So Piper, Jetson, Hunter, and Chevy. And I think combined with the old and the new, I think it just makes for a very solid defensive unit with a lot of size, a lot of skill, and a lot of speed too, which I think it shows because we're not giving up a lot of goals. And
obviously, two of the newer guys on the team, Teske his first year and Tomaszewski his second year, they're playing big minutes. Do you think guys like last year, like Tyler McAvoy and Ryan Haight, those are the guys that got big minutes? Do you think that kind of helped these new guys transition into what they're doing now, kind of help them grow over the last year?
Yeah, absolutely. Because Haight and McAvoy were pillars in the team for such a long time, and they were both of them quite important to us last year and several years prior to that. But they definitely set a very good example for all our younger guys. So I think obviously we owe a lot to them. Love you guys if you're listening.
All right, the whole team has been obviously incredible so far this year, but I gotta ask you about specifically Max Newnham and Brian Teske. Did you know they were going to be this impactful?
Yes. That's a simple answer. Yes, I did. they're fantastic. I've known both of them for a while, and I've done various skating things with them in the area. So I was very ecstatic when I heard that they were both planning on coming to Maryland. So I was all over them and reached out to them and talked to them and made sure that they were going to transition seamlessly into the team.
Well, I remember when we were doing the player post, the incoming player post for the social media. We did one for every player, and specifically it was Newnham and Teskey that Coach Joe was hyping up a lot, and I think it's certainly living up to it so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, while they are big, impactful players, I think every single one of our new players is making an impact this year, which is fantastic. That speaks volumes for how they're handling themselves, you know.
And another new player to the team that we have not mentioned yet as we go into the goaltending now is Eric Bernberg. The goaltending has been really good so far this year, so can you just speak to what you've seen from those guys?
Yeah, for sure. I think having Eric this year, who's had a lot of experience playing at this level, he's definitely a big mentor piece to the puzzle, and I think Aiden and Pels both benefit from that. I think our goalies, the three goalies, have a pretty good relationship with each other too. They're constantly talking to each other in practice and figuring out ways to improve their game. So it's definitely a team first approach for all of them.
And yeah, even on media day the other night, I mean, when we were doing the goalies, when they were doing their photos, it seemed like they were all having a good time together and smiling. But I want to ask you also a little bit of a fun question, but with those goalie pads between Bernberg and Henry, I mean, you're living with Henry. Does he ever show those off in front of you guys, that nice new helmet and the pads?
So we were about a month and a half ago or so, when everything was brand spanking new and he hadn't really taken a lot of shots on them yet. We set our apartment up as kind of a photography studio, and we took some artsy type pictures of his pads and helmet with some fancy lighting and everything. Needless to say, he's very, very proud of those, and I think they're awesome. Aiden got new pads this year too, which I like that they're a little different. Yeah. The white as opposed to the black and gold that both Bernie and Pels have.
I'm sure they had a lot of fun with that photography session the other day as well at media day. I'm sure Rob's gonna have some fun editing those. But speaking of media day, how did you enjoy that?
Oh, that was awesome. That's the first thing like that I've been a part of. I think for our first crack at it, it was very, very well run. So a lot of that goes to you too. You did a great job of setting that up and scheduling. So thank you.
Oh, it's no problem. We want to get the guys some good shots. So I thought it went really well. Rob's photos look incredible. We saw that sneak peek of you. I thought that looks awesome.
Oh yeah, I saw that yesterday, and
that is the coolest.
Oh, baby, they're going to be fantastic.
It's going to be good, ladies and gentlemen. All you listening, it's going to be good. We got a lot of stuff. But I got another good question for you. This one is a little bit of a funny one as well. But your sister, Lacey, is lighting it up on the Wisconsin team. Is there a little bit of a rivalry between the two of you?
Oh, absolutely. We text about it. We talk on the phone all the time about it. She's doing well, but, just so you know, her team is not undefeated, unlike our dirty Terps here. So
for sure,
I definitely have the upper hand when it comes to that right now. So Lacey, if you're listening, it's an indicator for you. You got to step it up a little bit, dude.
You got any bets or anything? Whoever's going to finish with more goals or whatever it is, you got anything going on like that?
No, because it's a foregone conclusion that I will.
There we go. That's what I like to hear. All right, I want to move into the upcoming games. I mean, you guys off to a great start. You did have some obviously great games so far. Some close ones. There were a few blowouts, and then obviously some close ones. Specifically playing Stevenson a couple times. Those were some good games. 3 times so far. But I mean, upcoming, you got the ACC showcase with Tampa, NC State, UNC. Then you got 2 against UNC Wilmington. So, how are you guys feeling kind of going into the gauntlet of things, later on in the year?
So our next set of games are against GW and Westchester,
Yep.
I believe.
Yep.
And those are right before the ACC showcase. So we're not overlooking those, but I think the big weekend for us will be the ACC showcase because at least both the Carolina teams that we're playing are highly ranked historically in the region. So that's going to be a very good test of us and actually give us an indicator of, what we got here. But I know we're excited, and that road trip down to Wilmington will be a good experience for everyone, too. That'll be our first big road trip of the season.
You guys have played back-to-back games plenty of times already this year, but when you play with the ACC Showcase, that's 3 games in 3 days. The Friday one is early in the morning. The Sunday is a day game. The Saturday is a night game. Does that throw anyone off at all? Like, are you guys able to adjust that easily, or is that something that you got to get used to?
I'll tell you what, I haven't played a morning hockey game since I was 17. And our first ACC game is 9 a.m. So that will be a little bit of an experience, but I don't think so. I think we're gonna approach all the games the same way, regardless of what time they start or back to back or whatever. I just think we need to emphasize, taking care of our bodies, recovering, stretching, taking ice baths, things like that, because we are not 14 anymore. We can't play 6 games in one weekend and come out unscathed.
Right. For those of you listening, Liam said the George Washington and Westchester games. The George Washington one is away next Friday, the 28th of October, at the St. James, and they'll be back Saturday night at the Gardens Ice House. The following weekend, all 3 games at the St. James. So a lot to look forward to then. I want to ask you, we talked about this a couple times already, but for those that are listening, what are some of the plans that you have for after college? Obviously this is your last year. I'm sorry to remind you, but you had some great things to say about your ideas. So would you want to explain some of those ideas that you had?
Yeah, for sure. I'm at the point where I don't think I can squeeze any more school out to use any more of my college hockey eligibility. Despite some pleas from the team to come back and get my doctorate in something, but I don't know if that's in the cards. If anyone has any suggestions on what I should get my doctorate in, I'm more than open to that. So recently what I've been looking into is potentially playing overseas somewhere. I know there's a lot of good competitive hockey in Europe. I'm looking Sweden, Finland, Germany, Poland, like anywhere like that. I just want to take a crack at maybe playing a little bit of semi-professional over there. Just as a life experience, I think it would be fantastic. And I got a little more left in the hockey tank before I just want to take up men's league full time.
For sure. And you were just in Europe coaching, so how'd that go?
Yeah, in August, I started working for this company called MVP International, and we do overseas hockey trips. We take groups of players to various European locations, and we do training. We play competitive games against local teams. So I got involved with that. I coached the 13U team, and we played a bunch of games in Sweden. We even got to skate with the SHL team over there, Rogel, if you're familiar with that. And we trained with some of their their players and coaching staff, which was fantastic. Overall, the experience was incredible, and maybe helped spark a little of what I want to do next year with that. So, recommend it to anyone.
Even if your ACHA eligibility comes to an end, you could still find another role with the team somehow, like the coaching staff, or we could invent a little role for you, the president of hockey ops, whatever you want to be.
Yeah, I'm perfectly aware that I'll probably be involved with Terps hockey in some capacity for the foreseeable future. So don't you worry, I'm not leaving you guys just yet.
Before I let you go, I got a couple. I got some fun ones. I got 5 questions that I'm gonna ask you about your teammates, and you gotta pick the one that's most fitting for the description.
Oh boy, okay.
So the first one, this is an easy one, or maybe not. Who knows? We'll see. Who is the funniest guy on the team so far this year?
Oh my God, we have a group of comedians in the locker room. Undoubtedly, there's so many guys who can fit the description. Patrick Pikanowski is hilarious. Chase Wilson is unreal. I think the hat probably goes to one of our new guys, Travis Duchesne, our grad student transfer this year. Absolutely hilarious, no filter whatsoever. I love him so much. It's fantastic.
You think any of the new guys are ever a little bit nervous to bring out the jokes? I mean, Travis is a grad student, so maybe he's got age on his side a little bit, but are the freshmen a little bit shy to crack out the jokes?
Maybe for the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, but now we're all just getting along, and there's no divide there.
All right, the next one. I think I might know the answer to this. Who is the best dressed?
The best dressed. I think Pels comes very well dressed to every game. Teskey looks absolutely fantastic. I love Hunter Aries' fancy jacket that he wears to each game. I think that might be my vote. Would be Hunter. He looks darn good in what he wears.
Okay. Who is time to insult your teammates a little bit? Who is the worst guy to sit next to in the locker room?
The worst guy to sit next to in the locker room. I'd probably be up on that list because I know my hockey stuff's abysmal.
Throwing yourself under the bus.
Yeah. Bernie takes up a lot of space with all his goalie pads. Yeah.
Okay. All right. You're going with yourself a little bit there. All right. Who is the teammate that is always late?
The teammate that is always late. I clearly remember this one from last year where we were on the bus going up to Penn State and we were missing one player. We were supposed to leave it was like noon or something, and it was like 12:10, and Mr. Aiden Jones wasn't there. So we had to sprint up to his dorm room, like find where he lived, knock on his door, and he was still sleeping when we were supposed to leave. And it was like the afternoon, which was just absurd. But that was hilarious. I remember that well.
And the last one for you. Who is the greatest academic weapon on the team?
The greatest academic. That would have to go to none other than Dr. Piper Holman.
Okay, there we go.
Dr. Piper is a true academic weapon. But did you guys know that Travis was actually the valedictorian of Catholic University when he graduated there last year?
Oh, I did not know that. That is a very good fact to know.
Oh, it's very impressive.
That is noted.
Yeah, but we have a lot of studious people on the team. So
yeah, for sure. That'll just about do it for our time with Liam Eden. Those are all the questions I got. We said this a couple minutes ago, but the Terps are back in action next weekend, Friday, October 28th. They're away at the St. James. That one is at 9:10 p.m. against George Washington. Then they're back the next night, Saturday, October 29th, 9:20 p.m. against Westchester at the Gardens Ice House. Obviously, no games this weekend due to the cancellation of Florida Gulf Coast, so it was a good time to get a little podcast episode up. We've never done this before. I'm happy to have none other than the captain, Liam Eden, join us for the first ever episode. So, Liam, thank you very much.
Mr. Fusillo, it was a pleasure, and I appreciate everything that you do. Thank you for taking time out of your day to ask me questions. I like talking, so.
Of course. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The captain, Liam Eden. And a special thank you for Liam Eden for joining us. Again, first ever episode of the Terps Maryland Hockey Network podcast. And I think it went pretty well. It was a lot of fun. It was good having Liam on and just talking all things Terps hockey, how things have been going so far for the team and for him, and just kind of picking his brain a little bit. So I had a lot of fun. It seemed like he enjoyed it too. So I think if this is something that we're going to roll with moving forward, I think we're going to need a little bit of a name or something. We're gonna have to bring out the creativity for this. But that'll just about do it for the podcast episode here on the Maryland Hockey Network. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, the Terps are back at it next weekend against George Washington and Westchester University. But that'll do it for now. I'm your host, Matt Fusillo, and so long, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.